The night was quiet in the small valley, where the forest stretched out under the pale glow of the moon. A cold wind carried the scent of pine and earth, and the humans living nearby were already asleep, unaware that the sky was about to split open. At first, it came as a streak of light across the stars, no different from a falling meteor. But then the sound followed a roar that shook the air and rattled the trees. Animals fled deeper into the woods, startled by the strange fire tearing across the horizon. The streak curved, sputtered, and then slammed into the ground far beyond the settlement. The crash echoed for miles, leaving behind a thick column of smoke and a burning scar in the soil. Not many dared to go near it. But among them was Captain Elias Ward, a retired soldier who had chosen this valley for peace after years of conflict. He was not a man who ignored strange events. He called together a few others, young mechanic Dana, old farmer Russell, and 2 more curious villagers. They carried flashlights and tools, making their way through the woods until the smell of smoke had melted. Metal guided them. The crash site was something none of them could explain. The wreck was not like any plane they had seen. It was sleek, curved, and shimmering faintly, even in its broken state. Its surface reflected the moonlight like polished stone, but when touched, it was warm and humming faintly, as if alive. Pieces of it were scattered across the soil, still glowing, not human-made. Dana whispered, her voice trembling between fear and awe. Elias studied the wreck carefully. He had seen many machines in his time, but this one was beyond his understanding. No engines, no markings, nothing familiar. It was both beautiful and terrifying. Then they heard it movement inside. A faint sound, almost like someone trying to breathe. Elias raised a hand, signaling silence. The group stood still, watching as a panel on the wreck shifted slightly. Smoke poured out, followed by a weak hand, long and thin, gripping the edge. The hand was unlike theirs, pale, almost translucent, with too many joints. Slowly, painfully, a figure dragged itself out. The villagers gasped. The creature that emerged was tall and slender. Its body bent as though the air around it was too heavy. Its skin shimmered faintly under the light. Not scales, not fur, but something smooth and strange. Its head was slightly elongated, with dark reflective eyes that seemed to drink in the world. It stumbled, collapsed, and then tried again, barely managing to stand. Instinctively, Elias stepped forward and caught it before it fell. The alien's chest rose and fell in shallow, painful breaths. When it opened its mouth, a sound came out soft, broken words in a language none of them understood. But then, through a small device on its chest, the words shifted, translated poorly into their language. I still cannot sit comfortably. After last night, the group froze, exchanging confused looks. What does that mean? Russell muttered under his breath. The alien repeated it again, struggling, before collapsing against Ilias's arm. Its body felt fragile, as if a strong grip could break its bones. Elias looked at the others. Whatever it means, this being is hurt. We can decide on the words later. Right now, we help it. They carried the alien away from the burning wreck, careful not to touch the sharp glowing fragments. The journey back was slow, for the alien seemed to weaken with every step. Its head lolled forward, its breathing uneven. Yet each time it stirred, it whispered the same phrase through the translator. I still can't sit comfortably. After last night, it was strange. It was unsettling, but it was not threatening. Back in the settlement, it laid the alien inside the community hall, the only place large enough and warm enough for such an unexpected guest. Dana quickly fetched water and blankets, though she had no idea if an alien needed either. Russell grumbled about bringing danger into their midst, but his hands trembled with the same fear and curiosity that burned in everyone else. By lantern light, they studied the alien. It was badly injured, its limbs trembled as if they carried too much weight, and its skin bore faint cracks as though strained from within. Its eyes fluttered open once in a while, unfocused, yet it always tried to speak. Elias crouched near it. You're safe here. Do you understand? Safe. The alien's gaze fixed on him for a moment. The translator hummed before producing words again, broken but clearer. Gravity. Heavy body. Cannot sit. After last night? Elias frowned. Gravity. He looked at Dana, who shrugged helplessly. Maybe it's trying to tell us it got hurt in the crash, she guessed. But even she wasn't convinced. The phrase was too strange, too consistent. The night grew long as the humans took turns watching over their guest. Some wanted to call the authorities, others feared it might bring more danger. But Elias decided they would wait until the being was stable. By morning, the alien stirred again. This time it lifted a trembling hand and pointed weakly toward the rising sun. Its mouth opened, and though its own language poured out first, the translator soon gave the words, "Your world." Heavy, strange, painful. I can't sit comfortably. The villagers fell into silence, the meaning still uncertain. Elias's eyes narrowed slightly. He had seen men break under armor too heavy for them, soldiers collapse in training fields where gravity pushed too hard on broken bones. This alien, whatever it was, looked like it was fighting simply to exist under the same sky that humans walked under so icily. It was not weakness he saw in its struggle, it was survival, and that made him curious and cautious about what story this being carried from the stars. The phrase it spoke might have been mistranslated, might have been nonsense. But Elias felt in his gut it was the beginning of something far larger than any of them imagined. And as the alien closed its eyes again, whispering once more, "I still can't sit comfortably after last night," the humans realized their lives had changed forever. The sun rose over the valley, casting long golden beams through the mist. The crash site still smoked in the distance, though most of the fire had died out overnight. Villagers avoided the place, whispering rumors about what had come from the sky. Some believed it was a weapon, others a sign from the heavens. But those who had seen the being with their own eyes knew the truth. Something alive had come from beyond the stars. It now lay inside their hall. Elias had not slept. He sat near the alien all night, watching as it shifted in uneasy rest. Every now and then, its translator device hummed faintly, producing fragments of words. Heavy. Body. Sit. Not comfortable. The repetition unsettled him. By morning, the others returned with supplies. Dana brought her toolkit, convinced she could understand the strange machine strapped to the alien's chest. Russell brought food, though he admitted he had no idea what an alien might eat. Others gathered quietly at the doors, too afraid to step inside but too curious to stay away. The alien stirred again. Its eyes opened slowly, reflecting the lantern light like pools of dark glass. It tried to move, but the effort made its whole body tremble. Elias steadied it with one hand. "You're safe," he said again. Though he knew the words might mean nothing to the creature, the translator hummed. Safe. Heavy. Cannot sit comfortably. After last night, Dana frowned. It's saying the same thing again. Something is wrong with the translator. She knelt by the alien, studying the small device fixed to its chest. It looked like a crystal sphere nested in a thin frame, glowing faintly with shifting lights. Strange symbols moved across its surface, too quick to read. She reached out but hesitated, unsure if touching it might hurt the alien. The being noticed her movement and weakly raised a hand. Its long fingers brushed the device, and at once the glow brightened. New words emerged. Gravity, pressing. Body, pain. Still not comfortable. Dana blinked. Gravity. Did you hear that? Elias nodded. It's clearer now. Not just nonsense. Russell crossed his arms. Or maybe it's still nonsense. Gravity pressing. What's that supposed to mean? But Elias's mind was already turning. He thought of the alien's trembling limbs, its fragile frame, the way it struggled to even sit upright. He remembered how heavy its body had felt in his arms, not from weight but from weakness, as if the very air was crushing it. Maybe our world is too much for it, Elias said slowly. Too heavy. Too strong? The alien seemed to recognize his tone. Its lips parted, and a weak sound came before the translator spoke. Yes. Heavy world. Crushing me. Silence followed, heavy as the words themselves. The villagers exchanged uncertain looks. Russell shook his head. So it's saying what? Just being here hurts. Elias answered firmly. That's what it looks like. Dana adjusted the device again, trying to fine-tune the translation. She found a small dial at the side and carefully turned it. At once, the alien's voice shifted clearer, smoother. I am Zaire, scout of my people, the translator said. I was sent to watch this world, but my ship broke. I fell. Now this place is unbearable. The name echoed in the hall. It felt strange on their tongues, but also real, grounding. Scout? Dana repeated. Watching our world? Why? Zaire's eyes closed for a moment, then opened again. To learn. To understand. To know if you're kind, strong, or weak. But I did not expect this, Russell muttered, spying. More like... But Elias raised a hand to silence him. He leaned closer to Zaire. What did you expect? Zaire's lips trembled as though the words were hard to shape. My people live in lighter skies. Softer ground. We are tall, but we are not strong. Our bodies bend easily. But here, your world crushes me. The ground itself feels like chains. The humans exchanged stunned looks. They had lived on this planet their whole lives. They thought of gravity as nothing, as natural as breathing. Yet this alien spoke of it like it was torture. Dana's mind raced. So when you keep saying you can't sit comfortably, you mean the gravity is pressing on you? That's what you've been trying to say? The translator flickered before repeating, yes, words. Fail, device struggles. Comfort, broken body. In pain? Russell rubbed his beard. So we've been sitting here thinking it was talking about chairs. A weak sound came from Zaire, something between a breath and a laugh. The translator managed to turn it into words, not chairs. Your world itself, news spread quickly. By noon, half the settlement knew an alien was lying in the hall, and whispers ran wild. Some wanted to contact the government immediately. Others feared soldiers might come and take the being away, or worse, bring trouble from the stars. Elias gathered a small group inside the hall to decide. We can't hide this forever, he said. But if we call the authorities too soon, they may not treat Zaire as a guest. We need to learn more first. For now, we keep him alive. Dana nodded. I can work on his translator. If we can fix it, maybe he can tell us more clearly.
Russell still looked doubtful.
What if his people come looking? What if they're not as peaceful as he is? Zaire's eyes opened again at that. The translator whispered, My people will come, but they may not understand you as I do. Elias studied him. Then help us understand first. Tell us what we need to know. Over the next hours, Dana carefully worked with the device, learning its rhythms. She discovered it adjusted itself by listening to their words, adapting slowly. Each sentence they spoke taught it to translate better. Zaire spoke often, though every word seemed to tire him. He explained how his ship had entered Earth's orbit days earlier. He had been watching silently, taking notes on human movement, cities, machines. But something had gone wrong with the ship's descent. The crash was not planned, and all the while, his body had been suffering. Our skies are thin, he explained through the translator. Our pull is gentle. Here, every step is heavy. Every breath is work. Your people walk as if nothing. But for me it is like sinking into stone. The humans listened in silence. They had never thought of their world as harsh, but through his eyes, it became clear. Their strength was invisible to them only because it was normal. Elias leaned back, thoughtful. So we survive something you can't. That makes us strong, doesn't it? Zaire's dark eyes fixed on him. Slowly, the translator spoke, stronger than I imagined. As night came again, the alien rested once more, weak but alive. The villagers left the hall, though many still lingered outside, whispering about what this meant for their world. Inside, Elias sat near the window, staring out at the stars. Dana sat nearby, scribbling notes. Do you believe him? She asked softly. Elias nodded slowly. Yes, He has no reason to lie. And even if he did, the pain on his face is real enough. Dana tapped her pen. If what he says is true, we've been walking on a heavy world all this time, never knowing it. Maybe that's why we've survived so much wars, storms, disasters. Maybe it's not luck. Maybe it's us. Elias glanced back at the alien, who shifted uneasily in sleep. His translator still glowing faintly, the thought stayed with him through the night. Humanity had been forged by the very weight of their world. And for the first time, he wondered if that weight might make them stronger than anyone else among the stars. Outside, the wreck still smoldered faintly in the dark. Somewhere above, the universe stretched on, vast and waiting, and within the hall. The alien's soft words whispered again in restless sleep. I still can't sit comfortably. After last night, but now, the humans were beginning to understand what those words truly meant. The days after Zaire's arrival were filled with both fear and wonder. The villagers could not stay away from the hall for long. Even those who had sworn to avoid it returned at night, peering through the windows or slipping quietly inside just to catch a glimpse of the strange guest. For most of them, this was the first proof that humanity was not alone in the universe. The alien remained weak. Though his translator grew more accurate each day, Dana worked tirelessly with the small device, learning how it adapted itself to their voices. She spent hours speaking simple sentences into it, letting Zaire repeat the words until the machine adjusted. By the third day, his speech was clearer, though still halting. I am learning your language, he said slowly, the translator smoothing his broken attempts. It is difficult, but necessary. The villagers listened, fascinated. They were beginning to see Zaire less as a monster and more as something fragile, something that needed them. Yet every time he moved, the truth of his condition became clearer. His limbs shook violently when he tried to sit. His chest rose and fell with heavy effort, as though each breath was a battle. The simple act of standing seemed impossible. Dana noticed first. It's like the air itself is crushing him, she whispered one evening. Elias agreed. He had seen soldiers collapse under armor too heavy to bear, men broken by the weight of the battlefield. But this was different. This was not armor, it was the world itself pressing down on Zaire. Russell, however, was not convinced. Or maybe it's all a trick, he grumbled. Maybe he's just pretending so we'll feel sorry for him. But Elias shook his head. Pain like that cannot be faked. Look at his eyes. Every time he tries to move, he suffers. On the fourth day, Dana brought in a small set of scales, a simple tool from her workshop. She placed a stone on one side, balancing it with a weight on the other. Then she pointed at Zaire. This is your problem, she explained patiently, using the translator. Our world is heavier than yours. Things here weigh more. Zaire tilted his head, watching closely. He raised a trembling hand and touched the scale, pressing down lightly on one side. The weights shifted, and the stone dropped hard. His dark eyes widened in understanding. Yes. The translator whispered. Weight. Too much weight. Every step. It feels like falling. Dana smiled faintly. So when you say you can't sit comfortably, you mean the pull of gravity is crushing you? Zaire nodded weakly. Yes, my world. Softer, yours. Strong, your bodies. Strong. The villagers fell silent at those words. Strong. He had called them strong. Elias looked around the room. To him, these were ordinary people. A mechanic, a farmer, a handful of curious neighbors. But to Zaire, they were survivors of a world that pressed harder, weighed more, and demanded more from every living thing. It was the first time Elias began to wonder, what if humanity's greatest strength had always been invisible to them? That night, Zaire told them more of his people. His voice was weak, but the translator carried his words clearly. We are not. Weak, he said carefully, but we are. Fragile. Our world is lighter. We move easily. We grow tall. But strength is not needed. We do not build the way you do. We do not fight the way you do. We learn, we think, we watch. But here, even to breathe, is like lifting stone. Russell frowned. Then how did you travel the stars if you're so fragile? Zaire's lips curved faintly, the closest thing he had to a smile. Machines. We build great machines. But without them, we are nothing. Elias leaned forward. And what do you think of us? The alien's eyes darkened, reflecting the lantern light. You live in a world that should break you, but it has not. You rise every day against the pull of the ground itself. You fight storms, hunger, fire, and still you endure. I did not know. None of my people knew. The hall was silent. The weight of his words pressed harder than any gravity. Over the following days, Elias began to test a theory. He brought simple tool stones, buckets of water, pieces of wood, and asked Zaire to lift them. Even the smallest effort left the alien shaking. His arms could barely raise a single bucket, while a child nearby carried two with ease. This is not possible, Zaire whispered, his translator buzzing. Your children, stronger than our warriors? The villagers chuckled softly, but there was no cruelty in it. They began to realize what Zaire saw in them. Their ordinary life was extraordinary to someone from another world. Dana leaned close to Elias after one such test. Do you see what this means? We've been measuring ourselves by our machines, our weapons, our wars, but maybe our real strength is simpler. We live every day under a weight no one else could survive. Elias nodded slowly, and we never even noticed. By the end of the week, Zaire's story spread far beyond the village. Travelers came to see the alien, some bringing food, others only questions. Many were afraid, but curiosity pulled them closer. Each visitor left with the same strange thought. Maybe humans were not as small as they believed. Still, there were arguments. Some insisted Zaire should be handed over to the authorities. Others wanted to protect him. Elias stood firm until the alien was strong enough to speak fully. They would not risk him being taken. And each night, Zaire whispered the same phrase before drifting to sleep. I still cannot sit comfortably. After last night, but now the words no longer sounded like nonsense. They carried meaning. They were a reminder of the crushing power of Earth and the hidden strength of the humans who called it home. One evening, as the stars spread across the sky, Zaire asked to be carried outside. Elias and Dana helped him, supporting his frail frame as they stepped into the cool night. The villagers gathered quietly, watching. Zaire lifted his eyes to the sky. His voice trembled as he spoke. I thought I came here to judge if you were dangerous, but now I see. You already are. The humans stiffened at the words, unsure if it was warning or praise. The translator flickered, then clarified, dangerous. Because you are strong. Your world made you strong. If my people knew, they would fear you. Elias looked up at the stars, his jaw tight. Humanity had always thought itself fragile compared to the vastness of space. But through Zaire's eyes, they were something else. Creatures tempered by weight, sharpened by survival, forged by the very ground they walked on. And for the first time, Elias wondered what humanity might become if they carried that strength beyond Earth. Zaire's gaze lingered on him, and the alien whispered almost in awe, You rise. Under the weight that crushes me, you endure. That is the discovery. That is what I will tell my people. If I live to see them again. The words sent a quiet shiver through the crowd. Humanity, so ordinary in their own eyes, was no longer ordinary at all that night. Elias sat alone by the hall's window, watching the stars until dawn. He thought about wars, hardships, storms, and losses his people had suffered through centuries. He thought about how they had always risen again, and he realized Zaire was right. Humans had never known why they endured, but now the truth was clear. It was not luck. It was not chance. It was the weight of their world, the silent burden they carried every day that had made them strong, enough to survive anything. And in that truth, Elias felt a spark of something dangerous indeed, hope. The days following Zaire's discovery passed in uneasy calm. The villagers learned more about him, and the alien grew stronger, though never enough to walk freely under Earth's gravity. Still, his presence was no longer a secret. Word spread beyond the valley, carried by travelers, whispers, and old radios. Elias worried constantly. He knew that sooner or later someone else, maybe the government, maybe strangers from beyond the stars, would come looking. His fears proved true on a stormy evening. Dark clouds rolled across the sky, and the first drops of rain tapped against the roof of the hall. Elias stood at the doorway, scanning the distant ridges. Something flickered against the clouds, a sharp light that moved unnaturally. Too fast to be a plane. "Dana?" he called quietly. She hurried out, pulling her jacket tighter against the wind. She saw the same thing he did, several lights cutting through the sky, descending quickly. The sound came next, a deep humming that shook the ground. XYRR, lying weakly on his bed inside, stirred at once. His eyes opened wide, and his translator whispered with fear, "Not my people. Hunters." Elias rushed to him. "Hunters." The alien's trembling hand pointed toward the sky. "They track us. Always. They follow ships. When one crashes, they come back." To kill, the villagers gathered in panic as the lights grew larger. Strange vessels, sharp and angular, descended just beyond the forest. The humming grew into a roar, and then silence. Russell gripped his old rifle, his face pale. "We're not ready for this," "No," Elias said firmly. "But we don't get to choose. We survive. That's what we do." The first of the raiders appeared through the trees. They were not like Zaire. These beings were shorter, heavier, with armor that gleamed in the rain. Their weapons glowed faintly, humming with power. They moved in lines, scanning the ground as if hunting prey. Zaire's translator buzzed. "They will want me alive. You. Not." The meaning was clear. The raiders would kill the humans if they stood in the way. Dana looked at Elias, her face pale but her voice steady. "We can't give him to them. If we do, we'll never be safe again." Elias nodded. "Then we fight." The villagers were not soldiers, but they were survivors. They had grown up in storms, in harsh winters, in long years of struggle. They had no energy weapons or ships, but they had tools, old rifles, the will to defend their home. Elias quickly divided them. "Russell, you take the high barn. Cover us with your rifle. Dana, you and the others set traps along the path. Ropes, nets, whatever you can find. Slow them down." "And you?" Dana asked. "I'll keep them busy," Elias said. "If they want to fight, they'll get one." The raiders advanced cautiously, their armor reflecting flashes of lightning. They carried strange blades and rifles, their steps heavy but precise. They were hunters, used to preying on the weak, but they had never faced humans in their own home. The first trap snapped shut, a hidden pit covered in branches. One raider plunged into it with a scream, his weapon flying from his hand. Before the others could react, Russell's rifle cracked from the barn. Another raider fell, his armor pierced by a well-placed shot. The rest snarled in their language and charged forward. Elias met them head-on, armed with nothing more than an axe. He swung with all the strength his body could muster, forcing the nearest raider back. Another lunged at him, weapon raised, but Elias ducked low, grabbing a broken plank and driving it into the raider's chest. The creature stumbled, shocked by the ferocity of the attack. Behind him, the villagers fought with everything they had: shovels, stones, torches. The rain poured harder, turning the ground to mud. But still they held their ground. Zaire watched from the hall, his dark eyes wide with disbelief. His translator whispered softly, almost to himself, "They fight with nothing, against everything." The raiders regrouped quickly, their weapons glowing brighter. Energy blasts tore through walls and trees, sending sparks and splinters flying. One blast struck the barn, forcing Russell to retreat. Another burned a deep scar into the ground near Elias, but the humans adapted. Dana hurled a bucket of water at one raider's weapon, shorting it with a burst of sparks. Another villager used a net to drag one of the armored figures down into the mud, where three more beat him into stillness with heavy sticks. Every trick, Every tool became a weapon in their hands. Still, the raiders pushed harder. More emerged from the trees, their numbers growing. The humans fell back toward the hall, forming a line around their fragile guest. Elias's arms ached, his chest burned, but he refused to step aside. "Hold," he shouted, his voice carrying above the storm. The raider leader stepped forward at last. Taller than the rest, his armor was black and gold, his weapon humming with dangerous energy. His voice boomed through the rain, though none could understand the words. Zaire's translator caught the meaning. He says, "Surrender the scout, or die." Elias tightened his grip on the axe. He looked back at the villagers, tired, bleeding, but unbroken. He looked at Zaire, weak and fragile, yet watching with eyes full of desperate hope. Then he faced the leader and spat rainwater from his mouth. "You'll have to go through us first." The translator repeated his words, and the raider leader froze. For a moment, silence fell. Then the leader roared, charging forward. Elias met him with everything he had. The clash was brutal. The alien's weapon struck sparks from the axe's steel, the force nearly tearing it from Elias's hands. But he held on, gritting his teeth, driving forward. The weight of earth was on his side. The strength of a man forged by a heavy world. With a final heave, Elias swung the axe hard into the leader's side. The armor cracked, the alien staggered, and before he could recover, 3 villagers surged forward, pulling him down into the mud. The rest of the raiders hesitated. Their leader fallen, their numbers dwindling, and the humans still standing strong despite everything, they faltered. One by one, they retreated into the trees, dragging their wounded with them. And then they were gone. The rain eased slowly, leaving behind silence broken only by heavy breathing. The villagers stood, drenched, exhausted, but alive. Elias dropped the axe, his hands trembling. Russell limped out from the barn, grinning despite the cut on his forehead. "We did it," Dana whispered, almost in disbelief. "We beat them." Inside the hall, Zaire sat trembling, his translator buzzing with awe. They were stronger, better armed. But you adapted. You turned the storm itself into your ally. You fought with stone and wood, and still you won. My people could never do this. You are dangerous. Elias sank onto the steps, rain dripping from his hair. He looked at Zaire, breathing heavily. "No, we're not dangerous. We're just human, and we don't give up." The alien's dark eyes glowed faintly in the lantern light. His voice, carried by the translator, was almost reverent. "That is what makes you dangerous." The villagers gathered inside the hall, tending to their wounds. The storm passed, leaving the air cool and clear. But no one could shake the truth of what had just happened. They had faced raiders from the Stars beings armed with advanced weapons and armor. And they had won, not because they were stronger, not because they had better tools, but because they refused to yield, because they endured. As dawn broke over the valley, Elias looked out at the smoldering wrecks in the forest. He knew this was only the beginning. Others would come. More powerful enemies, more dangers. But for the first time, he felt ready. For the first time. He believed humanity might truly have a place among the stars. And behind him, Zaire whispered once more. Though the words carried a different meaning now, I still can't sit comfortably. After last night, this time, the villagers laughed softly, not because they misunderstood, but because they understood too well. Last night had changed everything. The valley was quiet once more, though the memory of the previous night's battle lingered in every corner. The villagers moved slowly, tending to the damaged hall, fixing broken doors and cleaning mud from floors. Children peeked out from behind walls, still wide-eyed with wonder and fear, while adults whispered to each other about what they had witnessed. Zaire lay on his bed. Still fragile, still trembling slightly from exhaustion, but now his eyes shone with something new: pride, awe, and the knowledge that the humans who had protected him were unlike anything his people had ever encountered. Suddenly, the sky changed. Unlike the hunters from the last storm, these arrivals were different. Sleek ships, brighter, larger, and far more organized, descended slowly from the clouds. They did not roar with menace. They glided, almost silently, as though measuring the land before touching it. The alien vessels shimmered faintly in the morning light, reflecting the pale sun-like glass. Zaire stirred weakly. "My people, they come, Watchers. To see if I survived? To see if you survive." Elias straightened, brushing mud from his coat. "Then we show them what we are." The villagers gathered near the hall, holding whatever tools and weapons they had: axes, hammers, and old rifles. Though some were injured, none stepped back. They had endured impossible odds, and they would not falter now. From the sky, the ships descended, landing in a semicircle around the valley. The ramps extended slowly, revealing figures tall and thin, like Zaire, but more imposing, clad in silver armor. They moved gracefully, each step calculated, yet powerful. They were Watchers, the very people Zaire had described. Elias and the villagers stepped forward, cautiously but unafraid. Zaire pushed himself upright with effort, supported by Dana. His dark eyes swept across the new arrivals. "Do not attack," he said through the translator. "They are here. To judge, to see me, and you." One of the silver-armored aliens stepped forward. Their voice carried clearly, translated by Zaire's device. "Zaire, you have survived our hunters. But why is this world not destroyed? Why are the humans alive?" Zaire looked at them, then at Elias, then at the villagers. He paused, gathering strength for words that were heavier than anything he had spoken before. "They are not weak," he said, voice trembling slightly. "They are stronger than you imagine. Their world weighs on them every moment. Every step is a challenge. Every breath is a battle. And still, they endure. Not because of machines, not because of armor, but because they are human. They rise, they fight, they survive." The silver alien's eyes widened slightly, scanning the humans in front of them. They noticed every scar, every strained muscle, every hand gripping a weapon with determination. These were ordinary people, but they had defeated advanced hunters with tools no more complex than mud, ropes, and fire. The translator continued, "They turned the storm, the mud, even the rain, into weapons. They adapted. They endured. They stood when anyone else would have fallen." There was a long pause. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Finally, one of the armored Watchers spoke again. "Impossible. They are stronger than our scouts. Stronger than we believed. Zaire, what is their name?" Elias stepped forward, holding his head high. "We are humans. We live here. We survive here, and we will continue." The alien translators confirmed the words, repeating them to the silver-armored beings. Zaire's voice trembled, but he continued, "I am not exaggerating. You thought my people were the only survivors. You thought humans would break under weight, under storms, under danger. But no, they endure. They adapt. They survive. Because that is their nature. That is their strength." The silver-armored aliens looked at one another, their calm faces betraying astonishment. They had studied thousands of worlds, sent scouts to countless planets. Yet none had shown them anything like this. One of the Watchers stepped closer to Elias. And though their body language was still alien, the meaning was clear. Respect, even awes. Zaire continued, louder now, "Do not mistake them for fragile. Their world is heavy. Their life is harsh. Every day they fight against a tand, yet they rise. That is why they cannot sit comfortably after last night. Not because they are weak, but because their power is invisible to us. To me. Until now." The translator hummed. The words carried weight. Even the humans felt it. The battle from the night before, the raiders, the rain, the mud, all of it, became clear as part of something larger. Humanity's strength was not in weapons or technology. It was in endurance, in resilience. In the sheer will to survive, the silver-armored beings looked at Zaire, then at the humans, then back again. One of them spoke, carefully and deliberately. "Zaire, your report, is true. Humans are remarkable. We have underestimated them. Their strength is not in machines. It is in themselves. We will record this. We will not forget. Leah swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the moment. Humans ordinary, small in comparison to the stars, had earned recognition from an advanced species. Not for conquest, not for technology, not for war, but simply for being what they were, human. Zaire's translator whispered softly. I still cannot sit comfortably after last night, because I have seen what humans endure, and I have seen what they can do. Am humbled. A hush fell over the valley. Even the wind seemed to pause. The silver-armored aliens nodded once, then retreated slowly to their ships. They did not speak further. They did not need to. When the last ship lifted into the sky and disappeared among the clouds, the humans remained standing, muddy, bruised, but victorious. Their world had tested them. And not only had they survived, they had been seen and respected by beings from beyond the stars. Dana looked around at the group, tears of relief in her eyes. They actually respected us, she whispered. Russell laughed softly. Respected? I'd call it terrified. Elias smiled faintly. Maybe, but it's respect too. They know now. We are more than we look. Our world may be heavy, but that makes us strong. That makes us humans. XYRR, supported by Dana, finally leaned back against a chair. His trembling lessened, though his body remained fragile. The translator produced the same phrase one last time. I still cannot sit comfortably. After last night, but now the humans understood it fully. It was not a complaint. It was a statement of awe, of realization. That phrase became a symbol. A reminder that humanity's ordinary struggle storms, gravity, survival, daily challenges were themselves proof of something extraordinary. Elias looked out at the valley, now calm under the morning sun. The forest, the hills, the scattered ruins of the previous night's battle, all of it was still and quiet. But he knew the universe had changed. Somewhere beyond the clouds, watchers would remember this day. And somewhere, humans would continue to rise, stronger than ever, ready for what lay ahead. For the first time, Elias truly understood what Zaire had meant. Humans were not fragile. Humans were not ordinary. Humans had survived the weight of a world no one else could endure, and in that, they were remarkable. And as the valley brightened with sunlight, the alien whispered once more, almost in reverence, I still cannot sit comfortably after last night, because I have seen humans, and they are stronger than any star. The villagers smiled softly. For them, life would go on as usual. But they carried a new knowledge, now one they had earned, one no one could take away. They were humans, and the universe had finally noticed.